Hi, everyone. We're here today to talk about an exciting project called BanksyDAO. Does everyone know who Banksy is here? Yeah? All right, cool. Has anyone attended the event of the launch of the BanksyDAO downtown where there was a lot of Banksy in display this week? Yeah? Some guys? Awesome. So super excited to have Gavin with us today, who's the founder of the BanksyDAO, and super excited to see how DAOs can really blend in with like these amazing artists that surround us and how they can be made accessible to more people, right? So Gavin, tell us a little bit more about you and how you came about to having this idea, and then we'll dive into what BanksyDAO is.
Fantastic. Great to be here. I'm glad some of you got to see the installation. I got involved in crypto and blockchain back in 2014. I was at a hackathon helping coach some teams start their companies, and somebody handed me a white paper draft for a DAO, and that blew my mind. My background is corporate law. I worked as an IP attorney, and the idea that you could imbue an organization with purpose and give it potentially perpetual life and govern it by input and feedback. Everything we do in startups is about getting closer to the customer, getting closer to the community, and understanding how to build product and build community based off of that feedback. And in that, I saw the potential for a DAO to really work. So I got to work a lot in the space over these last 9 years. And finally, we're at the stage now where we have the tooling, the legal understanding, and the community infrastructure to give a community a voice. So that's where I came from, and that's why I'm so excited about DAOs this year in 2022.
So how did you get involved with Banksy? Or can you tell us who Banksy is?
If you recall a couple chats ago up here on this stage, they were talking about privacy, and there's been a lot of amazing things done under the cloak of pseudo-anonymity. Satoshi Nakamoto, Banksy, even some folks say that Shakespeare, Mark Twain, these are pseudonyms. And in that, you have a lot of room for creative expression. You have an identity, but it may not be your birth identity. And how many of us operate under a username on a website that's not our name? Right? How many of us have a PFP profile photo on at least one social media? So you guys are already experimenting in this world. You are Banksy. And I think that's important for creative expression. The founder of 4chan said many years ago that we represent ourselves online as facets. And I would say we do that in person too. You're here right now representing your project or your fund or your job, but yet that's not all of you. And so this concept of pseudonymity, I think, is really important. In terms of how we got to know about Banksy's work, my co-founders of this DAO were operating a company in Venice Beach, California, when this street artist arrived and started tagging and putting installations around Southern California. And they'd read about it online, had never heard his artist name pronounced, so they're running around trying to find this Banksy artist, and ended up following his career and accumulating quite a few of his works. And as we've been building my company, we've met other owners, and there's been this real good parallel between Satoshi Nakamoto and Banksy in terms of protest, revolution, embedding hidden messages inside of art and inside of product. And we thought the parallel was too strong to not do something there. And so we wanted to build something focused on real world assets, real world appreciation, but layer in the ownership model, the community incentives, and the power of DAOs to build this new buyers club.
Amazing. And so currently, sort of, you guys own some Banksys. And then how is the DAO going to work? Like, how are you thinking about structuring that community, and what's the purpose of the BanksyDAO?
So we formed the DAO to focus on acquiring what we call the definitive collection. Banksy's produce commercial authenticated signed prints, and those are the ones that do very well at auctions. Those are the ones we can trace back to a source of authentication. While While Banksy remains pseudonymous, he has a third-party agency called Pest Control, which if you like snarky web copy, it's one of the best websites out there. But that agency uses crypto, not in a code sense, but in the meaning of cryptography, to pen and paper verify every one of his works. And if you write into them, they will send you back either rejection or verification of that work if you own it. And so we have over 40 verified works of art that will be contributing over time, according to the voting and rules of the DAO, to the DAO collection. There's about 90 other pieces of work that we have on the DAO shopping list to build that definitive collection. And with that, we'll be able to build a display, an asset base, and what we're shooting for is a permanent museum where we can house all this art, and all the DAO members will become members of not just the collection and ownership of these artworks, but a member of the museum community and a long-term foundation.
So could we draw a parallel to existing foundations who manage, artist estates and things like that? Is that what you're aiming for? And are there other ideas around, using NFTs or more engagement with the general public?
Absolutely. The first piece of art that we're transacting into this DAO is Girl with Purple Balloon. And Girl with Red Balloon was a famous piece that sat under a bridge. And Banksy produced 4 different colorways of this art. Girl with Purple Balloon, reportedly, there's 20 of these reproductions that he's signed and authenticated, and only 2 have ever surfaced. And we just bought the first one and committed that Saturday night to the DAO asset. So that's the type of stuff we're trying to find. There's a lot of lost work out there. There's about $6.2 billion of lost Banksy art that people have not found, or they've been destroyed, or they sit inside of private collections. Did anyone watch that documentary, The Last Leonardo? No. Okay, good, right back there. Well, the outrage at the end of this is there's either a real or very close to Leonardo da Vinci painting that surfaced, and now it sits on a private yacht, and the world didn't get to really enjoy it in its full extent. And so when we think of what we're doing with the BanksyDAO, is we're trying to build something for the people. So pulling some of this art out of private collections, uncovering art that's been lost, and contributing to the DAO so that it can be displayed in museums, can go into gallery shows, and can be shared across different collections. So we're really trying to surface that. And one of the cool things around DAO mechanics is, has anyone ever worked on a proposal or submitted a bounty reward into a crypto project or a DAO? Fantastic. We got some hard workers here. So we have a scouting mechanism as part of our token allocation. So if you can help us find a Banksy, get it authenticated, and get it towards the DAO, that's a way to earn in to the collection and be a member of the community without contributing any capital or without committing any of your artwork. It's really a kind of a play to win actual engagement mechanism that lets us scout more art and be a kind of a decentralized knowledge base for finding this artwork that's been lost or undiscovered.
So that ties into the other question I had for you is like, how do I get involved in the DAO? And then once I'm in, what happens? Do I get a token? What are the token economics? How are you thinking about that?
So there's 2 principal ways at the beginning. We see the DAO really in 3 phases. The first phase is the formation phase, which is we're using Andreessen Horowitz invested in a company called Syndicate. There's several other companies like this.
CoinFund too.
CoinFund too. Fantastic. So we're working off a product that CoinFund's invested in to incorporate the DAO as an investment club. So that limits us to 99 members in our initial phase who can invest as accredited individuals into building the treasury for the DAO. With that treasury of both art and capital, we'll go out and purchase this definitive collection and round up the other 90 pieces we're seeking. In phase 2, we now flip into a community model where we can open up the investment, we can open up the participation to everybody. So developers that can help us with the marketplace, folks that can help us scout art, other folks that help with authentication and collaboration with pest control and other regulatory bodies. So there's a lot of work to be done in that second phase to establish the full discovery and appreciation of Banksy's work. And in phase 3, back to Vanessa's prior question, This then flips into education and advocacy and long-term preservation of the art, where we're able to endow the artwork, establish the museum, and build something that'll last forever.
And are you thinking of replicating this model to other artists? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, for me, we love all these tools that are developing, and this is a way for us to dive in and experiment with Syndicate to work directly in a DAO, and we feel like this model applies. Our company builds incredible experiences and incredible projects across different industries, and so this model could replicate very well into other artists, into other musicians, and other pieces of intellectual property where we can aggregate owners, build a community around it, and then launch it into a long-term vision. We are sitting at this really interesting time. Saturday night at the Banksy exhibit, Mark Cuban came and spoke to the audience. And what he said was, anyone considering building a new company should think about forming it as a DAO. And the reason that he gave for that is that, and these are his words paraphrased, doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. If you're a pure capitalist, this is a phenomenal way of organizing capital and a way to really engage closer into the customer feedback loop, which gives you a competitive moat in the future. If you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're a pure socialist, this is the best way that everyone can participate and have a vote. And you can have a fraction of a piece of value, and yet you still submit proposals. You still engage in the chat. You still vote pro rata to your contributions. And it's a way to build in and be part of a movement and influence it. So in large companies, you never get direct access to the CEO. In a DAO, everyone sees the proposals, the language, and everyone learns and contributes together. So that's why I'm really excited about this DAO structure. And it does give us a launch pad and a use case for future artists and projects.
Very cool. I want to open it up for questions in the audience before. Okay, 1, 2.
We're based here in Austin. Have you guys planning to stay in Austin? We want to put the museum here eventually. So I think in about 12 months, we'll have a permanent home for the artwork. And we'd like to do that here. But we're also planning member events in the UK and expanding the reach of the DAO membership. The cool thing about DAOs is participation is everywhere. And so, the physical location of the art is dependent on how the DAO votes, but it can go anywhere, and anyone can really join in this phase too, all around the world.
In the back.
Great questions. So first question is our engagement model for the scouts inside the DAO. Folks that can uncover art, they might have a day job at Sotheby's, or they might be working with a private family, to transact in their art. Those folks can join as DAO members. They can join pseudonymously, and they can be paid by the DAO for uncovering this art. The goal of the DAO is to be able to transact that art and own it as well, so that we can grow that collection and that all the DAO members benefit from acquiring each new work. In terms of your second question, Banksy has his own. It's a very interesting artist because in terms of intellectual property, he's lost some of his rights in the UK because he has not disclosed his identity and has not been able to enforce all of his trademarks and copyrights. But he has his own authentication agency, which we're using as a de facto oracle to authenticate on-chain everything that we transacted. So whether the DAO owns it or we verify it through the DAO, we're able to extend what they do and carry over that authentication, verify it in a zero-knowledge proof to all the DAO members, so that when they see that we're acquiring a piece of art, they know that we've authenticated it through pest control, and we can verify that. And if we ever transact out of the DAO, if we sell out of the DAO or trade between members, that's also through that same authentication layer. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. Yes. That's the magic of DAOs, is they're controlled by their members, and if there is a majority or supermajority vote, we do set certain limits around the types of votes, the amount of votes needed in order to do things like that are transacting in the works themselves. And so we have some controls in there, but if that's what the DAO votes on and chooses to do, and there's enough votes to do it, then we burn it. We're also setting aside a portion of the treasury. I mean, we're in Web3. The other side note to that is we're setting aside a portion of all of the proceeds and a portion of the ownership of the DAO for Banksy himself to claim, either through pest control or individually. And he may do the same thing. He might gift it away. He may never touch it. He may light it on fire or blow us up somehow. And so we're open to the chaos. But in that, if you look at what that does from a messaging standpoint, how many of us have read news about Satoshi's wallets and trying to input signal and figure out things from that? And I just think having that line of communication open to the original art creator is fantastic. And also as a model, as Vanessa says, for other artists. If you're an upcoming artist and you sell your works in a gallery display, you never get secondary royalties. You never get long-term revenue. Your family may not get it, and you may pass away before you ever receive recognition. And so acquiring and transacting art through a DAO and this type of format and ownership, to me, could pave the business model and way for artists in the future to participate in the success short-term, get closer to the community and folks that invest in their art, but also ensure that there's a long-term stream of revenue that can't be revoked, that can't die, and that can't go away as long as we have these tools in place. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hey, Kelly. Correct. And to be fair, the legal name and the official name of the BanksyDAO is the Bristol Buyers Club. And so we're not claiming any direct affiliation with Banksy. We're building under his legacy and owning his art, which we can do as a DAO. But we're also trying to generously and proactively collaborate with pest control to extend the IP rights and to set this up so that if he does participate and collaborate, he has a voice and a vote and a piece of income from it. In terms of losing his copyright, several pieces of his most famous works have been challenged because they've been used commercially in merchandising and in other displays and exhibits. And you can Google that and see about what has happened. There's several more applications he has filed with the UK Trademark Office to protect those rights. And he did make an attempt a few years back to set up a commercial store to further enforce his ability to commercialize that work. But for now, we're working with pest control as kind of this quasi-governmental agency to be the verifier, to be that oracle of record, and to respect that part because we believe that best reflects the artist's intentions as far as we know right now.
Well, thank you so much, Gavin. This is a fascinating project. Really excited for you guys. And if you want to learn more, please reach out directly. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.